Hello, this is Deborah Clutter, and we're going to be working on a new paper piece block today. And this one is a 24-inch block, so it's going to be big and you can use it for a table runner. And I may have a table runner pattern for you after you finish this block, so stay tuned for the next video. This block is super easy. It has 20 pieces in it and they're all exactly the same. So you're going to be doing 5 steps over and over 20 times. That's the only bad part. You have to do it 20 times, but super easy to do. The center part is appliqued in. I did applique mine in. You can sew this in if you want. If you prefer to do it that way, you can sew it in. It would be easy. It's a big circle. You could applique it with a blanket stitch, or you could use monofilament and zigzag, whatever you want to do. The outside is sewn in. It's a big circle. It just takes a little while to pin it all in there, but it's super easy to put in. The easiest curved piecing you're ever going to do, I promise. Just go ahead and download the pattern. It'll be in the description. When you click on the link for the pattern, it'll take you to the Dropbox. It's going to ask you to sign in or to sign up, and it has a little pop-up. If you're on your computer, it's a little pop-up. Just click the X, get out of it, and then it'll show you the pattern, just a list, and it'll show the pattern. Go to the left-hand corner and click the download button, and it'll download the pattern to your download folder on your computer, and that's where you can find it. If you're on your phone, it's going to ask you, it'll have a pop-up box that comes up, a pop-up dialog box, and it's going to ask you to sign in or sign up, but it also will say, or continue to website. Click the continue to website. It'll come to I think the same screen. You can click on the pattern, the PDF, and it'll pop up in your phone. If you have any problems, go to my About page on my channel. There's an email link. Just email me, and I'll either send you the pattern or help you through it. This is a big block, and we're going to be making a table runner out of this block in a future video. So if you want to do that, watch for the next video. Just make sure you have some extra fabric, and I haven't quite decided what it's going to look like, so it'll be a surprise for all of us. So anyway, I will be providing a new video to make this into a table runner, and we're going to finish this whole thing, so that'll be exciting. I hope that you guys like this block, and let me know. Thanks. Here's the supplies you're going to need for this video. I forgot to turn the sound on this video, so I'm doing a voiceover. You're going to need some brown for the center of the sunflower, some white for the background, some black. These are all batiks, a dark orange and a lighter orange. You're going to start by cutting strips. The instructions will tell you how wide to make the strips, and I have a 3-inch strip for the light orange and the darker orange. And the background fabric is 4.5-inch strip, and they're by width of fabric. So you just want to cut your strips, and then you also have a black strip, which is also 3 inches wide by width of fabric. You're also going to need to cut a 12-inch piece of fabric for your circle, and also need some interfacing to go with this so you can sew it onto your circle. So these are the templates for the circle and the templates for the outside border around the sunflower. So you need to make you need to tape the template together and then use some freezer paper to create the full template. You can just cut a 13.5-inch square, fold it on the diagonal, trace your pattern, and then cut it, and you should have a full template. Using the freezer paper is much easier to iron it on and trace around and cut it out. So you want to do the same thing for your circle. Just get some freezer paper and fold it in quarters, trace around the template, cut it out, and then you'll have your round circle template. You can fold the fabric also, like I'm showing you right here, but I don't know that it comes out quite as good as when you create the full circle. So for this project, I actually created the full circle, and I'm just going to iron it on the fabric, and then I'll trace around it. I'm just showing how I created the template by folding the freezer paper into quarters. So who knows really what I'm saying, because I don't remember. But anyway, I'm just showing you how you could iron on the freezer paper and to create your circle. So you're also going to need your pattern pieces or your templates for your units for the sunflower, the paper piecing templates. I have pre-folded all of mine. You don't have to pre-fold them. You can fold them as you go along. I just find it easier to pre-fold them, then I don't have the hassle of picking up the cardboard and folding them as I'm going along. And you have the extra benefit of being able to see where your lines are on the back of the paper from where it's folded. And I think this helps a lot. So if you take the time and try it out, see if you like it. I used to think it was a waste of time, but I don't anymore, so I always pre-fold. So you're also going to want to write your colors on each one of your patterns. So, put the black on number 5, brown or the dark orange on number 4, the light orange on number 1, and then the background fabric is number 2 and 3. If you do that for each one of your papers, then it'll be easier and you won't get confused as you're starting to paper piece. I mean, they are all exactly the same, but you never know. You could stop, somebody could interrupt you, and then you forget what you're doing. So if you just take the time to write it on there, it'll be a lot easier. So I'm just showing you how to cut each strip into the size you need. All the sizes are in the pattern. Just follow the pattern for how to cut those. And I'm just cutting again the next color. You want 20 of each one. And for the background fabric, we're going to cut it into a square. So just cut them on the diagonal. And then that'll give you all the ones you need. And you're going to need to cut 20 squares and then cut them, and then you'll have 40 pieces. I'm just cutting the black. This is for section 5. Okay, I use some pins just to label each one of my sections for which one I'm going to use on what color. So they're just regular pins, and I wrote on them with a Sharpie marker. No big deal. And I'm just going to stick them on the pile so I know which one goes where. And this is really a simple pattern. It doesn't take a lot to understand what's happening. But now I'm getting ready to put all the number 1s on the first piece. So those are for section 1. So I'm just using some Elmer's glue, and I got my pattern pieces, and I'm going to glue it on the back side of the pattern. And you can kind of see where it goes. You can see where the folded lines are. And it goes in that diamond shape right there. And so We want to do that for each one. And if you have a right side and a wrong side to your fabric, you're going to want to glue the wrong side to the back of the pattern. Don't put too much glue because it'll stick and it's hard to get off, just enough to keep it on there. And you want to do that for every single one. And I'm just showing that I have enough fabric to cover all my seam allowances for each section. So now we got all of our pieces. They're all glued down. We're getting ready to sew our first section, which will be section 2. So I'm going to take all my pile of fabric and my patterns and my add-a-quarter ruler to my sewing machine and get ready to sew. You're going to need a rotary cutter at your sewing machine if you're going to be doing paper piecing. Something to cut on as you're sewing along. We're getting ready to sew section 2 on all our pattern pieces. So we're going to fold the line over between section 1 and section 2. We're going to take our add-a-quarter ruler and we just want to trim. Then you need to grab a section 2 triangle, put them right sides together. Now there's no right or wrong side to the batik, but if you have a right or wrong side, you put them right sides together. And you want this corner to kind of be parallel with the corner of the triangle. You're going to see this is the folded line for section 2, and this is all section 2. I have fabric that goes down to here, so I have all of section 2 covered. And then we're just going to go ahead and stitch this down with a 1.8 stitch length. And it's going to look just like that. And we started a little bit over this line. We're going to take our fabric and we need to fold it back and take it over to our ironing station. If you don't have an iron next to you, then you can sew all the papers on, then take it to the ironing station and iron it down. I got a lot of stuff here, so it's making it a little difficult for me. Oops. All right. Now, it is better to iron this than to just finger press it. And I've done both, but if you finger press it, a lot of times you end up having a fold. So go ahead and iron it. You'll be a lot happier with your end result. And this is what section 2 looks like in the end, and we'll go ahead and do the rest of those and start with section 3. I have all my number 2s done, my section 2, and we're going to start on section 3. So we just need to fold back the paper for section 3, and you're going to have to tear the paper right here where you sewed over section 3. So just tear it with your fingernail, fold it over, and you can fold this little tip over too, just like that. No big deal. And go ahead and trim that. And it should look just like that. And grab a triangle. Right sides together again. I'm going to turn my paper. And again, we're just kind of placing it so that the triangle is in the triangle of the fabric that we have below. And of course, you can see this is all section 2, and you can feel your fabric is right here. So you have plenty of fabric, And so we'll go ahead and stitch this. And that's what it looks like. You're going to fold it back and press it with your iron. And of course, what I do is I just sewed all this section and then I took and pressed them all after, and so I didn't press them, sew it, press it, sew it, press it. Just sew them and then press it. It goes a lot faster. And this is what it looks like when you're done. This is section 2. Section 3, we have fabric around all of them, and then we'll start section 4. So go ahead and do all section 3 papers. I finished all my section 3, and this is what it looks like. All done. And so we're going to start on section 4. We're going to fold the line back for section 4. I already have mine pre-folded, so I can easily just fold it. And then you want to cut this 1/4 of an inch. Take your section 4 fabric, and you want to make sure, so in the instructions I have you cut this a little bit longer than I have mine right here, because I just wanted to give you a little bit more room, but it needs to cover, so I have it, there's the end of it, needs to cover this tip, and it needs to cover this tip. So here's the folded line. This is all of section 4. So it needs to cover that whole section. And then go ahead and sew that. All right, and that's what it looks like. We just need to fold it back and iron it. I switched to this little Alicio iron. So I got that iron yesterday at a crate store for $9. And I think they sell for $60. I couldn't believe it was $9. So I thought I'd test it out. It actually doesn't take as much room as my Panasonic. So that's what it should look like after you finish section 4. So I'm going to go ahead and finish all of section 4 and be back to finish section 5. I finished all of section 4, and this is what my pile looks like, and we're going to get ready to start section 5, which is the last section. So go ahead, fold your paper over, and use your 1/4 inch ruler if you have one. I suggest you get one if you do paper piecing. It really does help. And then grab your section 5 pieces and just kind of line it up there in the middle. It's a little bit oversized. Could have probably made it a little bit skinnier, but it's fine. So it should look like that. And go ahead and sew that. All right, and then just give that a press. If you're following along, go ahead and finish all your section 5s and we'll get ready to trim them. Okay, once you have all your pieces done and you have your little stack here, you're going to want to trim all of these, and just get your ruler and trim on the outside line. just like that. And then go ahead and trim all the straight lines with your ruler. And then I'm going to just trim this freehand. You can trim this with scissors if you want. Sometimes it's easier with scissors, but if you do this, just make sure you don't cut yourself. And go ahead and trim all your pieces, and I'll see you back after you're done. I have all my pieces cut. It feels like it took forever. So at this point, you're just going to want to remove all the papers. So, you know, sit in front of the TV or do whatever you want to do, and have your husband remove the papers or whatever, your kids. I think this is the part I do not like about paper piecing, is removing the paper. But it should be pretty easy. It's just, you know, takes some time. So you're going to remove all those papers, and then we'll start putting the sunflower together. Just going to sew it together with a 1/4 inch seam, one right after another. And at this point, you also want to cut some interfacing for your circle. So I have some Lori Holt sewing interfacing that she uses for applique. Cut yourself a piece that's about the same as your 12-inch circle. So I decided just to iron it on and then trace around the circle, and we're going to sew around this circle. After sewing your circle, you're going to want to trim it. Almost done. Here we go. I got some peeking chairs, and I'm just going to trim close to the edge of the stitching all the way around the circle. All right, and then you want to take and separate the interfacing from the circle and clip into it. And you're going to make yourself a hole and turn it right side out. Luckily, it's a huge circle, so it's really easy to manage. And then you just kind of want to roll the seam and make sure the fabric is on the top and interfacing is on the bottom, so you don't see it. And then go ahead and press it. And I think that worked out really well. I think that was easier than I did it the last time. And after you press it, you can trim this interfacing away. All right, I'm ready to start sewing these together. You're just gonna put them together, right sides together, just like this. And there's a little notch down here that should match up. And then you're gonna sew with a 1/4 of an inch. And it's going to look just like that when you're finished. And just go ahead and start sewing the next one. And I'm going to continue until I have a circle. So I'm at the end. I've sewed all my pieces together, and I just need to sew the circle together. And you're just going to do it the same way you've been sewing all the rest of them together, just like that. After you finish sewing your sunflower together, make sure you press everything going in the same direction, and it should look something like this. And then you have your circle, and I have trimmed my circle. I could probably trim it some more, but this is what I have. Now this circle is big enough. You could actually sew the circle in if you want. It has the right seam allowance, I think, for sewing it in if you want to do that. I'm just going to applique mine on, and I'm going to hand applique mine. I'll just put some white Elmer's glue around it to tack it down, and then I'll hand sew it. And then we'll continue to the next step. So I use Elmer's white glue in a little applicator bottle like this. It has a real fine tip to glue a lot of things down. And it's washable, and it doesn't show. And I use it, let me get a clear focus. I use it to glue my binding down. I use it to glue my applique down. I use it for a lot of different things. And sometimes I use it for glue basting. It just depends on what I'm doing. But these little applicator bottles, you can get these from Amazon. They're not very expensive. And just fill them up with white glue. Now, if you go to Joann's has a white glue that works just as well. I just happened to run out of the Joann brand, and I picked up this because I was somewhere else. So pick up Joann's. It's only like $1, $2 for a big bottle like this, and you can use it for all kinds of stuff. But these little applicator, I can't talk today. These little applicator tips work really well for this. I have my center circle appliqued on, and it's all stitched down. This is what it looks like on the back. So the next step is make sure you press this nice and flat, and these edges are going to want to stretch a little bit, so just be careful. Next step is to cut a piece of your backing or your background fabric, 13.5 inches wide by width of fabric. So this is from salvage to salvage. And I just made my little template by taking the pattern pieces, taping them together, taking a piece of freezer paper, folding it in half, a 13-inch piece of freezer paper, folding it in half, drawing around it, and making this template out of freezer paper, and then I just ironed it on. And I'm going to take a pencil and just, well, you don't really have to take a pencil and draw this one, but you can. I'm losing my mind here. Hang on. You can draw this one. I only had the one template, so I drew this side. You need 4 of these. You could just cut this one. Just lay your ruler up to the line. And then just trim it off. Now you have to be careful when you're cutting through here, so it's probably best if you just take and at least cut one of them out. So I'm just going to cut this with my scissors. And just put that aside for right now, and then go ahead and cut your other one that you have the template on. Don't cut your template. And then go ahead and cut the rest of it. Just make sure it's at right angles. This is kind of an old template, so I think I may have cut it at one time. And then either use your scissors or your rotary cutter and cut this curve. I know people aren't comfortable doing this. I have a Kai rotary cutter, so the blade is never exposed, and it only exposes itself when you push down on it. So I feel comfortable doing it with this blade. I don't think I would feel comfortable with one of the other type of blades. Okay, so those two are done. And then you can just peel the paper off. I don't need that. And then we'll go back to this one. And we want to make sure this is at right angle. I'm filming away, and my dog decided to get sick on the carpet, so I had to clean it up. So I'm going to continue. I just want to make sure this is at a right angle. So I noticed it was a little bit off on my template. Like I said, it was an old one, so just make sure your template is correct when you're cutting these sides, because they're going to be the top and the bottoms and the sides of your block, so they need to be straight. And there we go. So we have all 4 of our pieces, and we're going to go ahead and sew those together. Okay, we're going to sew the sides together, the little short ends, right sides together, and just sew 1/4 inch and back stitch at the beginning and the end. Just like that. And then I'm going to sew the next one. Again, right sides together. Okay, just make sure that you have a circle. You know, it's going to look like a big cutout in the middle. It's hard for me to put the whole thing in the camera, but all the seams should be going the right way, and all your corners should be going out, and you should have a circle in the middle. And go ahead and press these down. I'm not really sure which direction. We'll see. Might have to move them when we stitch it. I don't know. All right, so the next step is to take your block or your sunflower, and you want to fold it in half, and you want to mark it it doesn't really matter where you fold it, and then just mark each side on the back side. And we'll call that center. Then you're going to fold it in half again, trying to make sure you get this on camera right. And then go ahead and mark that. Okay. And so the next thing you want to do is turn this right sides together. It's kind of hard to deal with. Move my iron. It has to go this way. So your little triangles are going to be pointing inward, and you're going to take and match up your seam to there. And I need to find some pins. And you just want to start pinning it by matching these areas first. So we're going to find the next one, which is somewhere around here on the back side. Did I mark this one on the front side? Oh. And then just pin that. And so you're going to do every quarter of your circle. So here's what 1/4 of the circle looks like when it's pinned together. You can glue base this also, and I've done that, but the pins allow you to adjust it. If you have, you know, a little bit more on this side than the other side, you can adjust it. So go ahead and finish pinning the rest of your circle and get ready to sew it. I have my outside of my block all pinned to my circle, and this is kind of what it looks like. Put as many pins in as you're comfortable sewing with, and then we're just going to sew a 1/4 inch all the way around. And I don't know that you really need to sit here and watch me sew this big circle, so I'm just going to sew it and see you at the end. So when you get to your seams underneath, make sure they're pointing in the right direction, and lift up your bustle foot, and make sure your seam is nice and flat when you sew over it. Just don't zip along and sew it, and then you're going to have a problem later. Also, one more thing. When you're doing this kind of sewing, it's better to have your needle stop in the down position, because it gives you opportunity to adjust your seams, or, you know, turn your circle, or whatever you need to do. So if your machine isn't set up that way, you might want to change it. Okay, I'm finished sewing my outside block on. I don't know what you want to call it, the background for the outside of the circle, and I'm going to go press it, and we'll take a look at it. Here's my block after it's been pressed and trimmed. I made sure it measures 24.5 and trimmed it nice and square. Hopefully yours measures the same and you had a good result. And so we're finished. We're finished with this block, and then stay tuned for more. Thanks.